So, I'm joined this evening with Stephen Giblin,
That's right.
and he's a local man here in Mayo. He lives 10 minutes from my house. And yet, last year, there was an event here in Mayo called CANA Talks, and I saw this big publicity and a theatre being rented, and I thought, oh, this must be some big American organisation that they come in to do like TED Talks. And then I realised that Stephen and his wife Laura had organised CANA Talks, and I said, well, it's coming up again this year on the 31st of May, and I thought I'd get together with Stephen just to get a bit of history on CANA Talks. What is your vision for this event, and what are the future events you're going to do? So maybe just kick it off and give us a little bit of history about yourself, and how this got moving.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Anyway, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you here as well in this conversation and join you. In terms of the history, I suppose Laura and myself, we actually are into TED Talks. You mentioned TED Talks there, Robert. And we were watching it one evening, and we thought, there's some good topics here, but there's nothing from a faith perspective. Now there can be from a faith perspective sometimes on TED Talks, but that's not the norm. And we said, the church has a very rich heritage, very rich history. It covers so many areas of life: spirituality, faith and science, happiness, authentic happiness, that is, social teaching, everything. So if we could come up with some kind of an event similar, have some differences obviously, but where it would be from a faith perspective primarily, but would kind of have a similar kind of a format. And the other thing as well is that we were thinking in terms of obviously evangelization, because that it's an evangelistic initiative first and foremost. And with young people these days as well, we know that there's less and less of an attention span there as well. They're going for shorter and shorter kind of things. Shorter clips.
30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we don't want to go that kind of to 30 seconds, but we thought maybe, because we have Catholic conferences, which can go on for a couple of days sometimes. You get speakers speaking for a long sort of period of time. Why not something where a speaker is speaking, they've got 15 minutes kind of maximum to say what they need to say. And maybe, if there are people, non-believers or young people, maybe they'll be attracted to that kind of a thing. So, for example, in the event we had last year, we were told by a lot of people as well that even if there was a talk there that didn't really inspire them, they didn't mind. They didn't get bored because they knew there's another talk coming up 10 minutes later kind of thing. So that's exactly that kind of feedback kind of matched with our vision, I suppose, in the beginning, In terms of why were we even, I suppose, thinking about it in the first place? Well, for myself, I'm a former seminarian. I was in Maynooth, in St. Patrick's College, Maynooth, and was there for 4 years altogether. And I was then sent on a pastoral year here in the town of Foxford. And pastoral work, obviously, meaning, doing home visits with people, visiting the housebound, getting involved in the liturgies in a bit more detail, in the sacristy and things like that. And I also did hospital work that year as well. But during that time I met Laura, and Laura was heavily involved in the church around this area, around Foxford. She was in the Legion of Mary, and I did a bit of work with the Legion of Mary when I was here, so we got on really, really well. We were very compatible, and that meant that I had to go through a different period of discernment then, as did Laura as well. Laura, for her it was, she said, go back into the seminary, make sure that it's right. Like, she was fully committed to doing whatever was right as well. So she was saying that, and I did go back for a short while, and then through a long period of discernment decided to take it the different path, and we ended up getting married. But we continued the work of the church really, together on this one, and we're always thinking, what can we do? We're doing lots of small things, good things, scripture talks, I ended up finishing my degree, and I did a master's as well.
Yeah.
And did it in a scripture background as well.
Yeah.
So I was always looking for things, for openings. How can we reach out to people, to non-believers? So, one thing that Laura and me both have in common, very much so, is the commitment to the church, but also we're very evangelistic in our outlook. So we obviously go to mass. That's the source and summit of everything. But what is taking it out there as well. Yeah. We've both got that in the heart, So it worked out very well.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I was so impressed last year. Like I saw it advertised, and then last minute I just bought a ticket. I said I'll go to this, and I remember you contacted me at the time, but I didn't. I just thought you were part of this big group.
Yeah.
Because who rents a theatre these days? Who rents a theatre? Nobody rents a theatre. I said, and then I found out 2 people rented a theatre for some Catholic talks. I said, this is vision for you. Sometimes we try to do an something in the parish, and you might get 10 stragglers turning up. And this was very well laid out, but it kind of puts your a stamp on a mark on the West, really.
Yes. Well, again, another thing me and Laura have in common is we're both risk takers. I have a background in business as well, before I went into the seminary. So I am a risk taker, and Laura happens to be as well. So we're not afraid of doing things big. But so how do we do that for the church? It is risky, there's no doubt about it. So with the big theatre like the TF, it's 2,000 seats, 2,300 in fact. It's like Janie, I mean, if you can get that amount of people, we'll be doing very well. Luckily, I mean, the TF, obviously, they look at it from a commercial perspective. However, they've been very good to us as well. And they understand that it's an event that's growing, that they get that. And, they very much kind of support us in their own way. They were glad to have us there. It was something different anyway. There's no other kind of event similar to that's taking place in that arena. And we went for it as well, because it is a secular arena. And we thought, therefore, we might get the secular crowd that way and do the evangelization. Whereas if we do it in a parish hall, they won't necessarily come to a parish hall.
No.
So that was our thinking there, really.
And you don't have that venue in Knock for saying, you don't have a conference hall in Knock. You'd have to use the Basilica, and that seats 10,000.
It does, exactly. It's huge, it is.
And it's interesting to have this venue
where
you can also put on the dancing.
That's true.
Which is a good location. So and to bring everyone together.
We had the dancers, the Turley-Duggan Academy of Irish Dancers, and I suppose that's as well to break up the speakers a bit. We had some inspiring speakers, but we've got to think about how do you break that up so people can have that break and then go fresh back into the next talk. So we thought we'd have them, and this time we were also having the Kulani Gospel Choir in the second half of the show. So we'd have a piece of entertainment in the first half, piece of entertainment in the second as well.
That's great.
And the thing we've done this time is we've kind of narrowed things down a little bit, or tightened things up, so there are 6 speakers in total rather than we had 7 last time as well. Just a little bit,
And so who do you have this year?
Well, the first speaker who will be on will be Father Robert Spitzer. Father Robert, of course, is the president of the Maggi Center in California, in Orange County, California, and he's a well-known figure in the American Catholic Church, of course. Now he'll be joining us by video link. It won't be in person. The Maggi Center are very supportive of the event, but he doesn't really travel outside of the country. He's lots of demands on Father Spitzer, but even to get him to speak by video link is a very good thing. So he's a great speaker. His main area, of course, is faith and science, faith and reason. That's what he's tackling, apologetics, really. He can speak on anything, really, So
we'd be definitely looking forward to that.
I think so. a fan of his. Like I listen to his program every week. He's of course on Father Spitzer's Universe on EWTN. He's got a slot there. That's been proven very popular over the years, where he answers all the questions, of course, that people have. From it could be faith and reason, but it's spiritual questions as well, and all kinds of things. Why does God allow suffering? I always find his answers very convincing. I think sometimes, sometimes I hear people ask big questions to various people within the church, and I don't always find the answers that convincing, really. Whereas with Father Robert Spitzer, I always think that he gives very good, comprehensive, solid answers, and convincing ones as well. So we're going to put a few questions to him as well. Now, again, it's the format of the show is 15 minutes. We're giving him an extra 5 minutes now. This one, it'll be 20 in his case, So we'll put maybe just 2 questions to him. So it'll be done in that kind of a format. So I'm not sure exactly what the questions will be, but it'll be something about the nature of God. It might be like who is God, and then maybe we might put the one to him about suffering as well, something along those lines. It's only because we hear so often people ask us, why does an all-loving God allow suffering? So I thought, well, this is no better man than Father Robert Spitzer to answer that one, So he's the first up. So he'll be joining us on by video link. After that, then we have in a different in order, we have Neil McDonough. He'll be the next one up. We'll have him up second. Neil is a well-known Catholic speaker. He's spoken certainly in this country, in Ireland, also in the UK, in America, and I think in probably in other countries. You know him yourself, Robert, don't you? And he's got a big experience, of course. He's worked with Mother Teresa as well out in Calcutta, with her missionary order. He's worked, I believe, in America as well, in the Bronx, working with homeless and drug addicts and so on. So he has that kind of experience, and I've heard him a couple of times, and I was impressed by him. I heard him at the New Dawn conference over in England, in Walsingham there, and he gave a bit of a personal testimony, and he was also speaking on the area of dignity. I won't go necessarily through the whole story. I'll let him tell the story himself, but it was about AIDS patients that he was dealing with, and him having to wash them and look after them, and so he was talking about, obviously, everybody, by virtue of the fact that we're created by God, is worthy of that God-given dignity, and he tells it in such a really good way, I think. In a unique way. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but he just...
I heard him speak in Sligo in St. Mary's. He gave it, and he has a very powerful way of delivering a speech, which isn't. It's a quality that's not easy to get right. To connect with people and empathize with them and deliver a speech. And I think he's somebody that can actually teach Ireland how to engage in that sphere, and maybe mentor other people how to deliver a speech.
I think so. He's got a good delivery for sure.
He does.
That's the thing exactly. And I didn't actually know Neil up until maybe a year ago, and then I came across him, and I thought, he's very good, and very sort of heartfelt as well in what he's saying. So and I know he's had a rough time in the past. I mean, he tells that himself in his personal testimony. That's also part of it's quite compelling, really. So Neil is up, and he's excellent, and he'll be speaking on human dignity. So that and I thought that would be a great one, because that's his area, really. And then we have a Tara Niekamp. Tara is coming all the way from Nova Scotia in Canada.
Wow, I was wondering.
So, and how we came across Tara was last year for the event last September. Before that, I was going around the churches, and I was giving a bit of a talk at the end of the masses. trying to promote CANA Talks, encourage people to go and all of that. And it was in Tubbercurry, and her father was there, and he just came up to me, says, my daughter is a very good Catholic speaker over in Nova Scotia. I didn't hear of her. So he said, would you be interested in if I sent you a video of her, giving the talk? So I says, yeah, absolutely. So she sent me a video, and I was very impressed. What the thing with Tara is that she was diagnosed with a degenerative eye condition at the age of 11.
Wow.
And it gradually got worse and worse, and she's got really low vision now. I mean, really low. And she went through a spiritual crisis, a real spiritual crisis, and she talks about being angry with God. She talks about begging God to restore her eyesight, and that not happening, and then getting more into despair and so on. I think it was only when she was in her 20s that she eventually somehow was inspired through adoration, I think it was, somehow to go to confession. And when she did, then it was through that encounter where she suddenly got peace, but it was peace to accept it. Mm-hmm. It was through acceptance that she just got totally, her peace came, and she sees the benefits, if you like, the spiritual benefits of the suffering.
Yes.
That's the thing, but she tells it in such a powerful way. She's a very clear speaker as well. Very similar to Neil, I would say, actually, in that way. She puts it across so well. Wow. And I think it will speak to a lot of people, So she's the next one on the bill, and the fact that she's coming all the way from Canada as well, I mean, it shows some commitment, at least. So
buy the tickets. Please support this, especially anybody that's here in the Archdiocese of Tuam. We need your support for this event.
Absolutely, indeed, Well, if Tara can come all the way from Canada, so she believes in it, obviously, and she feels called to speak in Ireland as well. She's of Irish extraction, she's born in Canada. Her father is Tubbercurry, you see. So she doesn't come here, this way that many times. She's been here a couple of years ago, I think. Okay. So she knows that there's a crisis as well here in the Catholic Church, so she sees it as an important thing to do. Yeah. So that's Tara, and then we're going to have a bit of entertainment. That's in that slot, and then we have an interval, and then after the interval we have Brother Richard Hendrick. Mm-hmm. Now, Brother Richard is a Franciscan friar, and he is based in Dublin. Yeah. And again, he was somebody who I'd heard of him, but I didn't know that much about him, and he was on the Tommy Tiernan show, I believe, probably about 6 weeks ago. So I got a call from someone who says, there's a fella on the Tommy Tiernan show, he's a Franciscan friar, he's doing really well, so I turned it on and listened to him. And then the reviews that he got were really, really positive. Yeah. I mean, in the secular press as well, so I thought, he's making an impact here, expect him to make an impact with practicing Catholics, but even with the non-practicing ones, he seems to be, hitting something here. Yeah. So I thought, he could be good. So I looked into him anyway, and I believe that during the lockdown he did some poem.
He did. I remember that.
Did another one,
I remember that.
Yes, yeah. And I admit that I'm not a major one for poetry. I'm into prose more than poetry, in that sense. But when I did read his poems, I thought they were very, very good. They were inspiring, So he's talking about finding the good in the lockdown, of course, which was not easy to do, But you think, so he's saying that we're probably doing a bit more communicating with one another at the moment, that kind of thing, But that's true. So that's where he made his name, really, and he does publishes a lot of poetry now, and he is popular. So I went to meet him, and he was very much up for doing a CANA Talk. So he's going to do one, and he's going to speak on joy. Yeah. I said to him, what would you like to speak on? I mean, what do you think is important for people to hear, and in your experience? So he says, I think joy, because he said it's something we sometimes just brush to the side. So we say, joy, But he says in joy in the authentic sense, and it's one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit.
It is.
Yeah. So I think, that was what that's where he wants to link it in, obviously. And so he's going to talk about it in that context as a fruit of the Holy Spirit, and how it's something that we don't often discuss.
Yeah.
And the theme of this event anyway is a roadmap to happiness.
Yeah.
And when we talk about happiness, we mean it in the deeper sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, a deeper peace.
Yeah.
Deeper fulfillment, not a surface happiness.
Yeah.
It's not a going around with a
Yeah.
smile on your face. It's a deeper thing,
Yeah.
and that's what he means by joy as well. So he's going to speak on that anyway, and I think he'll do a great job. And then we have Father Shane Sullivan. He's an American priest. Again, he's of Irish extraction. He was actually in the seminary when I was in there in Maynooth. He was a couple of years ahead of me now.
Yeah.
And he was a deacon at the time, and he's based down in CANA in Connemara.
Yeah.
And he set up at the Society of the Apostolic Society of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
A few years ago. It's in the Archdiocese of Tuam. Father Shane was in Castlebar before that as a curate, and he was a popular priest in Castlebar.
Yeah.
He's very much committed to the mission of the church. I know that from my time with him in Maynooth. That's really what brought him over here in the first place. So that's what drives him, and he's always a brave kind of an individual. I always thought, someone who didn't mind speaking out. Like he wouldn't be afraid.
Yeah.
So I thought he'd be good to speak on courage.
That's good.
So again, one of the gifts of the Spirit as well. So that's what he's going to speak on: cultivating courage.
Yeah.
So overcoming fear. Now, obviously, we all have fears,
Yeah.
but it's working through them, having trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
And having the faith to somehow. To keep going, knowing that God will get you through. So it's overcoming fear doesn't mean just getting rid of your fear and that you're going to be completely fearless. You'll have it, but you still go ahead in an inner confidence, really.
Yeah.
And he that's his area, I think, as well. I think that's where he's strong. I've heard one of his homilies one time, and I was very, very impressed with that when he spoke on that very topic, you see. So, and then finally, it's myself.
Yes.
I'm getting up there this time.
You didn't speak last year.
No, I didn't. No, it was my wife Laura who spoke last year, and she spoke on taking risks for God, which in many ways was very appropriate, because we were taking a risk on that occasion, so we were able to just tell the story of putting CANA Talks together, really, and selling tickets, and how it was it did work out very well in the end.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it's a slow process.
It is.
So Laura spoke last time, so I thought, well, I'll speak this time, and I'm going to speak on the topic of purpose. Yeah. So we've thought in the future of doing another theme, maybe faith and science. Maybe next year we might do that. But at the moment, we're doing the roadmap to happiness. So my talk is kind of at the sort of like intersection of those two themes. Yeah. Faith and science and roadmap to happiness. So I'm going to start off talking about the fine-tuning of the universe. It's not going to be overly scientific by any means, but I'm going to talk about how, what are the chances of us being here in the first place? Extremely slim, to say the least. It's incredible, when we look at some of the facts in cosmology, as I say, the fine-tuning of the universe. I'm going to be talking about the gravitational constant. Again, it won't be overly technical. It's really to make a point about the fact that we're here at all, that it is a miracle. Yeah. And then what do we do with that miracle? What do we do with the fact that we are here at all, that we are born with a purpose? Yeah. And I refer to Jeremiah in that sense, where God says to him, before you were born, before you were conceived, I formed you in the womb, and I'd chosen you to be a prophet to the nations. And I do believe, that's the same for us all.
Yeah, absolutely.
In some way that's unique to us, really.
Yeah.
So that's my area that I'm going to try and get home.
Really interesting. I'm going to pick your brains. Last year, when you spoke at the end of the conference, you mentioned, if I'm remembering correctly, the synoptic gospels. And you've done is it a master's in sacred scripture?
I have, sacred scripture, and I'd studied the synoptic gospels for sure. But my major dissertation was actually more on Acts of the Apostles. Well, it was Luke and Acts of the Apostles. Of course, Luke writes both of those books anyway, the Gospel of Luke and Acts of the Apostles. And my main work was on Paul the Apostle, and how when he is Saul originally, and he has his conversion on the road to Damascus, and he's baptized then by Ananias. So it's kind of in that kind of area. Luke, he doesn't say that much about it, yet Paul is a major figure in Acts of the Apostles. But and Luke mentions a lot about baptism in Acts of the Apostles. Other people's baptism, will say, in Acts of the Apostles. But yet on this major figure of Paul, he doesn't say much. He just said he got up and he was baptized. So it's like, how come he doesn't say too much about that, really? So it was really like exploring that. But actually, if you look in the text, there's a lot that's in there about Paul's baptism. It's more sort of metaphorical, really. Leading up to that. So that was my area, really. But I had to study the synoptic gospels as well, and I started off with Mark. That was the first one, and then did it at advanced level as well, and then Matthew and then Luke. Not so much John.
No,
we did a bit of John. John is hard as well.
We were made to learn the Gospel of John in Latin by heart.
Really?
I used to think it was torture. And now I think it was great. We learned it, but at the time, we have to learn it. And I mean, it wasn't a discipline exercise, but it was to kind of meditate on it. So I found it deeply mystical gospel. John, and kind of my go-to. But then when I heard you talk about the other gospels last year, I was thinking, how do we do this? Because what I get back from people around Ireland, they look at my videos and then they say, the content, I want to know more about the faith. Because we've had a very infantile, childish formation. Stopped at primary school, then in secondary school there was no faith formation. Our kids aren't even given a Bible. They might get this Gideon Bible, they come home, and nobody's opened the word or cracked open the word and explained it to them and enlivened their heart. Because if you show people that Christ is real, you transform them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just thought it was fascinating. I said maybe there's a project there that you're going to give to Ireland as well.
Well, I'm a great believer that synoptics can change the world.
You said that last year.
Did I? Yeah.
You said that, and I was wondering, how are you going to do that?
If you make that claim, you have to back it up with something anyway. I think it's because a lot of the teaching is in the synoptic gospels of Jesus. As you mentioned, John is a great gospel. John is in many ways the favourite gospel of the Catholic Church. It's the gospel of the 20th century of theology in the 20th century. But it's quite complex. As you know. It takes time. Whereas a lot of the things that we're familiar with, a lot of the teachings of Jesus, a lot of the time they come from things like the Sermon on the Mount, which is in Matthew. It's in Luke as well, the Sermon on the Plain. But a lot of the teaching is in the synoptic gospels. And I just think as well, we're at a time where we do need the teaching, you see. And that's why I think that it can transform the world in that sense. It's the teaching of the gospels. And again, I'd probably go more to Matthew on that one. There's so much teaching in Matthew. It's known as the teaching gospel. And I think we need that. So what I mean as well is that going back to Jesus himself, I'm conscious of that even with CANA Talks. Like if I'm up there talking, I want to try and make sure that I'm relying on Jesus spiritually, and also what is the actual teaching of Jesus. I might try to put it out there in a kind of a modern way, we'll say, or put it in for our context. So how does it apply to our everyday kind of thing in the 21st century? But it's the same message that applies forever.
Exactly.
What Jesus, that's what I'm getting at. With turn the other cheek.
Yes.
A very difficult thing to do.
Exactly.
But it still applies now as it did 2,000 years ago.
It did.
Now I could come out with a lot of different fancy things, but I'm not going to best Jesus when it comes to teaching.
No.
So how can, I'm trying to rely on him as the rock, and and put that across in my own way. But ultimately rely on Christ. He transformed, Palestine, we'll say, at that time, 2,000 years ago. I mean, in the sense of loads of followers following him, and then taking that out to the rest of the world afterwards, after his death and resurrection and ascension. Then they took it out.
I know it's just fascinating. In Ireland, there's another Irish author, and now he publishes a lot of history on Islam. He's a Catholic, but he did an interview on the Gospels, and he was just talking about how the different Gospels follow different calendars of the Jewish synagogue. They would have had their old, gone into the synagogue and had the Old Testament, and then had a reading from the New, and how John followed the temple calendar.
That's
and
true,
then the others, and how the gospel was transmitted with beads.
That's true.
Which I thought was fascinating.
That's true.
There's so much history.
There is.
I mean, that we're just scratching the surface.
We are.
Like even I was 9 years in Rome, but like as far as scripture, you can go. I mean, you can go deep. I mean, there's two ways to go deep. It's just to study the scripture, but also now there's Jean Corrie who's helping me with School of Mary, Lectio Divina. Like, we forget that the power of the Holy Spirit to come in and to open the word to you and to transform your life. And it's amazing. And we have this treasure of what God is offering to the Irish Church, and it's just a matter. Get it out there.
That's it. Absolutely. Lectio, as you just said there, Lectio Divina is something that's been forgotten, really.
Absolutely.
It's an ancient tradition. I've done some Lectio Divina in the town here in Foxford, and it went down well, actually. But it's an ancient way of praying with scripture. And we did this in Maynooth, and it's amazing when you do it on a consistent basis, things start happening. You start to apply scripture to your everyday life, and you start to see how it does apply. So it's not just a book from 2,000 years ago and it's stagnant and that's it. No, it's alive. And the Spirit is alive in the Word. For sure. You just got to open it up and slow things down. So we have a tendency as well to maybe just read too much sometimes. It might be better just reading one passage. It could be trust in providence, something like that, when Jesus speaks about trusting in God. Don't worry about tomorrow, just worry about today. So today's got enough worries of its own. So if we kind of slow that down and just focus on that, even just over a few weeks, and take it passage by passage, and then we'll start to see how in our own lives, maybe we are worrying too much about the next day, but by reading it in scripture and praying with it in scripture, it hits home more in the heart. Like, we're not just reading it, using the mind, it's the heart as well. I think we're doing such a disservice to our kids. When we have so many Catholic schools, imagine if we spent 15 hours every day. 15 minutes. 15 minutes to read the scripture with our kids in school. Every 15 minutes of prayer. I mean, you don't know what you're pushing into that child's heart by opening up the scriptures. That's right.
And we're not doing it.
I
we
know.
are lost because we haven't capture the hearts of others for who Christ is, you know.
Yes, yeah.
No, I worked in a Catholic school for 2 years, and a lot of the kids now are married with kids themselves, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, just reflecting back, we did retreats, we had mass, and we had sacraments and so forth, you know. But like, what the church could be transformed into if we were able to, you know, a small amount of prayer, not overload our kids, but 15 minutes of Lectio Divina or adoration.
Of course, absolutely, I think Lectio Divina is one of the big things. Very few people know about it. Practicing Catholics don't know about it. Never mind the kids. Like, you know, the kids might even take to it better. Sometimes young ones have a good imagination, and you need that with Lectio Divina as well. So if you take, say, Zacchaeus, the story of Zacchaeus, we might read that and think it sounds almost a bit childish. Like, now you can look at that in a scholarly way and see it's far from childish. But even, you know, if you enter the scene as you're reading it and you imagine the crowds. And you're thinking about all the crowds that were following Jesus, and you probably wouldn't get a look in, like, you know, if you were there and he's going past, and then somehow he spots you. And then obviously in the case of Zacchaeus, you know, he goes to his house, and then at the end he says, salvation has come to this house this day, which is a big theme in Luke as well, salvation. But it's that kind of thing. You have to imagine the scene as well as read it. Like, you have to put yourself there. And young ones are good at doing that, funny enough. It's one of the spiritual kind of ways of praying as well.
It is.
To be contemplative, like, and paint the picture.
There's a friend of mine, Antoinette Moynihan, and she was just telling me she does adoration with kids, children of the adoration. And what she hears from kids in adoration, like, it's incredible, because we've just given, you know, a time for them to in prayer. You know, if we did this across Ireland, you know, to break open the word for the next generation, to allow them to be immersed in the word, you know. There's another author, the Catholic world a little bit divided on it, Maria Valtorta. But as far as imagination now, it just, she had an incredible imagination, or it was divinely inspired. Who knows? But as imagination go, even that scene of Zacchaeus, she describes it really well. You know, very similar to the gospel, and her capability to actually visualize the scene. And it does captivate your heart, you know, because you know, through Lectio Divina we're forming our will and our mind to allow us to have that prayer of the heart, the union of the spirit.
Exactly. That's the thing.
People don't know.
No, they do not. No. It's the prayer of the heart. That's the thing. We pray with the lips kind of thing, and that's it. Like, and exactly.
It takes somebody to lead you into that, you know.
I think there's another thing as well, you know, Robert. There's certainly with the younger generation, obviously there is of unbelief there. Some of them would question, you know, did Jesus actually did he actually walk this planet? Basically, you know, was he real? Not necessarily just was he the Messiah, but was there an actual person called Jesus? Which there was. I mean, I've done so much study of that. It's unbelievable. There certainly was a figure, and a major figure called Jesus. So that's the first thing. The bigger question is, do you believe he was who he said he was, the Messiah? That's a question of faith, you know. So you have to work on that one. But sometimes as well, I think if you get past that first barrier as well, and you can convince people there was such a person called Jesus, and he had a huge following, and the early followers were prepared to die for him. Then you start thinking, there's something in it here. There's something real in this. All the early martyrs who suffered awful deaths, they were prepared to go through that. Then you're not going to be crucified for nothing, like. So they believe, they saw something, you know, so there's enough evidence there.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the next step is I believe he was the Messiah then, and let's listen to what he actually had to say.
Yeah.
What was he teaching for us and how we're to live? So again, I often start with a bit of historical context.
Yeah.
So it feels real to people.
Yeah. I think there's so much like in that context, you know, you can bring in auxiliary tools like Shrabbra Turin and all
true.
that.
Yeah.
There's so much study there, you know, the resurrection, Eucharistic miracles, and
absolutely,
you know,
there is, even in more recent times, like with Eucharistic miracles as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of the Eucharist, we're talking. In terms of the Eucharist, I mean, we were in, myself and Laura were in the Holy Land a couple of years ago. And I mean, it was a great experience, great spiritual experience as well. But there was also a sense in me that Jesus is there, but Jesus is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where Jesus was, obviously in flesh and blood 2,000 years ago, but he's now in our churches, back home.
Yeah.
And that hit me more when I went to the Holy Land. I think because you go in there thinking, well, in this place we're closer to Jesus, but not necessarily. It's where Jesus is in the tabernacle, on our altars, back home in our churches. That's where he is. You don't have to go to the Holy Land necessarily. Now you can go because it can give you a spiritual experience. It's where Jesus did actually walk, the earth.
Yeah.
And did his teaching, certainly.
Yeah.
But the Jesus is in the Eucharist.
Yeah.
That's where he is, and that's where we have to have our relationship in Eucharistic adoration and so on.
Yeah.
And we've lost that Eucharistic kind of devotion, I think, a bit, really. We don't really take it as seriously as we should.
No,
I don't think,
But like this, the church would have to come full circle on this at some stage, because there's a whole mystery there in the Eucharist. You know, this. You see, I used to love going to divine liturgies in the East.
Yeah.
Or in Jerusalem, you can go to the Armenian quarter in Jerusalem. I used to Armenian liturgy, and they would be completely focused on this mystery. So look, we're taking you out of your routine and and it's it's completely focused on something that's out of this world. Leads you into contemplation. Your mind is taken out of your day-to-day stuff and brought into something else, which we have lost in Ireland.
I think so.
Do you know?
I think so.
And it's not a criticism. It's just an observation. And then people are not engaged with something beautiful.
That's right. And I mean, if we look at Knock Shrine, I mean, we know that's a Eucharistic apparition, really. It's an apparition of Mary and Joseph and John, but it's Jesus.
Yes.
On the altar there, the Lamb, and it's the Mass because he's on the altar and the angels above. It's purely Eucharistic, and it happens in at a time when you have the famine. You had the Great Famine a bit earlier than that, and then you have another bit of a reoccurrence of a famine as well. A bit later on, and there's great anxiety over that, obviously. As you could imagine, great anxiety, but yet there's a devotion as well at that time to the Mass. And I think we live in a materialistic world where we have comforts, and we're ignoring it, and people in need, in desperation. The Mass is what will feed them. First and foremost.
Absolutely.
And it's very striking that, and. I think we need reminding of that, really.
We absolutely do, and I think Ireland the landscape of Irish Christianity is changing very quickly. Like we have, as I saw in Knock 2 weeks ago, we had the Syro Malabar with their ancient Syriac rite. That the altar prepared and the altar cloth and the vestments and really God-centered liturgy, and it's that's their right, you know. You have 100,000 Orthodox coming to Ireland. We have the first Orthodox metropolitan or bishop here in Ireland. We see the Greek Catholics arriving. We see traditional Latin Mass revive. You know, there's a lot of things pointing people, and at some stage, you know, it's striking when you go from one thing to another.
Yeah, sure.
You know, to your 30-minute mass, to your an hour and a half divine liturgy, and like why take so much effort into it? Because this is a time. I always find the liturgy or mass, especially traditional Latin, a time of prayer.
Of course,
I'm just there in prayer.
Yes,
you know, I have time now to pray.
Yes,
Whereas people say, "Oh, when is this going to finish?"
No,
It's
indeed.
you know.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas we should be lending ourselves to prayer to be drawn into that contemplation.
Absolutely.
And not divisive. It's not about dividing the church.
Yeah, I know.
This and that.
Yes,
Or not recognizing the need for some change, but
that's it.
there is a mystery there.
There is, I would go to the Latin Mass quite a bit when I was over in England. I was born in England now, and my mum and dad are from over in Ireland, and my dad over from Ballahadreen, and they moved back, and I kind of eventually came over here myself. But when I was in England, I'd go to the Latin Mass every so often, and one of the things I found, first of all, I'm not great on the Latin, actually. I studied Latin in Maynooth. I was better with the Greek for some reason. I'm a lot better, and I needed to be with the Greek because of the scripture. But with the Latin anyway, so I wasn't necessarily following the Mass, but nevertheless, I was following it as well. In a deeper way, really. There is something there. I don't know what it is. I can't even put it into words that much, really. But it was certainly very prayerful. Very spiritual, for sure. I'd get something from that. You know, I understand it's not for everyone either. You know, the Latin Mass, but I take to it myself anyway. You know, I don't go to the Latin Mass. You know, now really so much. I would do if you know, but over in England I did.
But like it's interesting time in the church, and we'll see where we see green shoots coming up. You know.
Yes.
And my big thing is, you know, I think if we open the doors to union with God, you know, to see what God does in you. Let God do the work. Then people see. The action of God in their life.
Absolutely.
You know, it's you know, we have one master, and we should lead them to the master and let him do the work. Be fed by him. But I suppose it takes conviction.
It does. You know? It takes conviction for sure. That's something that I find a lot of people are lacking. Now, in terms of going to Mass, I think people sometimes go there out of routine. It's what they've always done. They just feel maybe there's still a social pressure with a certain generation, perhaps. Whether they're going there with conviction, I don't necessarily see that. I know I could say, who am I to judge? But I think I look at the fruits of that anyway, and I don't see much missionary work going on alongside the worship. So that's why I don't think there's much conviction, you know. But no, you have to have the conviction, Where does that come from? A relationship with our Lord, really.
Absolutely.
A prayer life, Eucharistic adoration, the Mass, obviously. You know, all those things, the Rosary as well, praying the Rosary, devotion to Our Lady. All those things, but there is a lack of conviction anyway, for sure. And I mentioned about the mission side of things as well. You know, in the church, you could say there's the worship side of things, and then there's the mission side. Some people might call also add maintenance to that, maintenance and mission. So maintenance would be maintaining what we've got. So you know, we're in a parish, we have a community of parishioners, and I think a lot of priests, they want to keep it that way. They're afraid to be too, you know, outspoken, as they would see it, or what I would say, speaking with conviction. And therefore they just want to keep things as they are, maintain the status quo. They're afraid. I think that's obvious. Not in every case by any stretch, but it's out there. And just maintaining things as they are, really. But really, you've got to be going out and trying to get new people.
Yeah.
You know, people who are not convinced, people who are non-believers.
Yeah.
And not just the priest. The priest is the people, the Catholics, the people who are going to mass.
Yeah.
They go there, worship. We've got to be careful it doesn't become a self-indulgence.
Yeah.
You know, it's the source and summit. It's the most important thing. But you've also got to do as Jesus commanded in the synoptic gospels in Matthew. Go out and make new disciples.
Yeah.
We're just lacking that.
Yeah.
Probably because we've never done it before, really. We've not needed to in Ireland, really.
No.
That's the thing as well.
Yeah.
For centuries, the church was strong.
Yeah.
Not strong now, not as strong. So we need to go out and do it. We're nearly starting from scratch kind of thing.
I know.
But we're not used to to. We think just going to, and when I say just going to mass, I don't mean it in that way. But I mean we'll go to mass and we've done what we need to do now for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
But no.
But like as I said, like a missionary spirit in Ireland, you could be giving 1 hour once a week to the church. That's not just church building related, doing things at mass or something like that, but actually to go out into your community, to transform your community, to give what you've received. I mean, the spirit of Christ is a spirit of action.
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah,
you know, because he wants to reach different souls.
Yes,
you know, he wants go to this person. But that's how I feel him anyway. He's quite demanding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
He doesn't really stay quiet for too long.
No.
And
I find that as well.
Go out, preach the gospel, give it to people, and get out of your comfort zone.
Oh yeah. You have to get out of the comfort zone. Yeah.
And I think so. And I think it's amazing when you see what our Lord does then.
Yeah.
You know what he does in the lives of other people. I find that incredible. You know, it's a miracle.
Yeah, well, of course.
It is, and you're witnessing the miracles in other people's life. You know, all we did was the possible. Then he comes in and does everything else.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm convinced of that. You know.
Yeah.
But I suppose we only have to do it ourselves. You know, you do your bit.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, he needs our physical bodies, if you like.
He does
to do the kind of the physical side of things, but he's doing the spiritual. Yeah, if we allow him to do that. Yeah. It's what I often reflect on is the fact that he's given us freedom, you know, and we can say no to him.
Yeah.
And he's not going to force us, but he's going to, you know, probably put something in the back of our minds, we'll say, or on our hearts, and make a suggestion or try to nudge us in a little way, but he won't overdo it.
Yeah.
And we have to respond to that, and then the graces, I think, follow from there. And he doesn't show you the end result necessarily. No. So that's the problem. It's not the problem, but it's at the time it takes courage, you know. So
it does,
because by nature I like to see the end result. Like
it does.
I'm a planner, like you know. So I'm learning to kind of let go a bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Oftentimes you won't see it. You know.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But, no, it's interesting. I see that in Derry. There's a great missionary spirit, especially with the Curcio guys.
Sure.
And I was privileged to see them there in action. And you know, I won't talk about the Curcio weekend because we keep it secret for them. But like the missionary spirit, we've a lot to learn. You know, and sure. they were really committed. And these are like constantly doing stuff in the church, constantly organizing in groups and mentors and stuff like this. You know, you don't get that, doesn't come out of nowhere.
No, it does not. No, that's the thing. Commitment like that, or consistency. That's the spirit, I think. Definitely. And in fact, it was on Pentecost only yesterday, and we hear about that, like about the Spirit coming on the apostles, descending upon them, and so on. And then they get this sort of commitment and consistency. They don't quite have it before then. No. You know, they're failing and losing hope and all of that. But after Pentecost is when they're on fire. And that can only be of the Spirit, I think, if we can work us, keep going forward. Because we face all kinds of, rejections and we can easily get disillusioned when
Yeah.
we feel we're not getting very far.
Yeah.
You could easily give up.
Yeah.
So it can only be the Spirit, really.
Yeah,
I think so.
It
Yeah.
does, yeah.
And-
I find when you're really dejected, our Lord sends you somebody.
Yes, yeah.
He moves somebody,
with
and
that
I
one.
find that's fascinating. You know, when you're really down, you know, you get a call or something like this, and
Yeah.
you know, and I think there is something happening in Ireland. It's,
Yeah.
I keep saying it's the most amazing time to be Catholic,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
know when things seem tough, our Lord steps in. You know,
Yeah.
and I find that truly amazing just to watch.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course, yeah.
you know.
He comes in at the right moments. Yeah,
does.
yeah, absolutely right. I feel that myself in my own kind of endeavours, like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment, obviously in Ireland, yeah, things are hard, but it's also an exciting time as well. Yeah, it definitely is. There's some, because we are having to go back to basics,
Yeah.
which perhaps we didn't have to do before. There's something exciting about that as well.
There
I
is.
think even on a
There is.
human level, to be participating in a mission that, in something what the apostles had to do
I
essentially.
think so. I think
You
that's what we're in, because He's purified the church.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
if you don't have union with God, or you're not on the path of union with God, and you're doing anything in the church,
Yeah.
you know, Satan is going to come in and swipe at you.
Oh,
you know,
yes, yeah.
you know, if you're not committed to Him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah.
and I think now our Lord is really okay. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to bear fruit, you need to be me.
Yes,
You need,
yeah.
I need to work in you.
Yes, yeah.
And that's hard sometimes.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. It will, and I think Satan himself will take a particular interest as well
Yeah.
when you're doing work for Jesus,
Yeah.
essentially. When you're working really hard on projects, I think he's going to be there as well,
Yeah.
to make things difficult and to test you essentially.
Yeah.
So you have to stay focused on the Lord.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the Gospels, it's a bit like Peter on water.
Yeah.
You know, where he's
Remember.
sinking. You know that
I
one.
love that piece.
Yeah, I do. I often have to reflect on that one, because to do this, I'd find myself sinking maybe. You
Yeah.
know, think no, focus
Yeah.
on Jesus, like, and
Yeah.
that'll get you through.
Yeah.
And it does.
It does.
In my experience, it
Yeah.
has done as well.
Yeah.
So it definitely does.
Yeah. And our center of gravity has to be Christ.
Yes.
You know, that'll
yeah.
keep us on the water if we're gravitating to Him and not gravitating to the world.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
world, both spheres of gravity
Yes.
pulling on us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but,
Oh, absolutely. There's a massive tug from the world. Like,
Yeah.
so many temptations. There's so much going on. We're so busy as well.
Yeah.
Materialistic,
Yeah.
but really busy. We're racing around from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and we do need to slow down as well for the spiritual life.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and Jesus himself, if you take his example, I keep going back to the synoptics, but you know, he takes time out to
Yeah.
pray to the Father.
He does.
You know, he will not. That's his priority. Like,
Yeah.
so therefore, we have to be doing that
Yeah.
with Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're kind of like drawing on Christ as well, and he's helping us in ways we don't even
Yeah.
you know think
Yeah.
about really.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll, in the next life, hopefully,
Yeah.
if, you know,
We'll see.
we'll see that,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's pray, like, and you know, as I say, you know, I say to many people, you know, there's so much despair.
Yes.
Many people with the, you know, your 120,000 people on cocaine every year,
Yeah,
your
I know,
addictions
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Give them Christ. Give them a taste of Christ.
Yes. Yeah.
The window that opens in their life.
Yes.
I just find,
Of course.
you know,
Yeah.
I find it amazing to see, wow,
Yeah.
their experience.
Yes.
It's very humbling when you see somebody that you helped
Yes. Yeah.
becoming far more advanced with Christ than you were.
Yes. Yeah.
They're having all these things and sort of, and I said, well, it's great to recognize what our Lord does, and I think that's just fascinating.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
To listening to
Yes,
what they're doing, you know, and
Yeah.
their experiences. It's
Yeah.
humbling.
It's humbling, yes, and very encouraging as well. Like, you know, when you hear,
Yeah.
Christ working in people's lives, and
Indeed.
when they're open to that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I do believe Christ is the answer to everything,
Yeah.
literally.
It's true as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, I definitely encourage everybody to,
Yeah.
if you don't have faith, you have to pray for faith.
Yeah.
That's the thing as well, and be committed to it.
Yeah.
I suppose as well, again, talking of the commitment a bit earlier there, you have to be committed in the faith. I mean, in the projects that you're doing as well, but in your spiritual life.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have ups and downs, you know, with this in this world, you're going to have moments where you're restless, bored, all these different things, and you won't be in the mood for praying necessarily.
Yeah.
You just pray even when you're not in the mood, because you'll get through that. Like, you know,
I just said I said it to my son walking up. I said it to my son on Saturday. We were walking up Croagh,
right.
and I said it to him. You know, it's when you don't feel like doing something.
Yes.
That's when you conquer yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Get over your emotion. Because we're doing this 40 days of walking, and it's get this. Are you sure you're going to do 40 days? And he's already done.
Yes, yeah.
Weeks of walking with me.
Yeah.
But I said, "You sure you're coming?" Yeah, I'll come along.
Yeah.
So I said, "We're going to do a lot of walking, you know."
Yes, yeah. Well, he's got a bit of a challenge ahead of him then, hasn't he?
I think when he starts it, he'll be off. He won't walk the dog too much, but he'll walk around Europe.
Yeah.
Kids these days.
So you got him up Croagh anyway.
I got him up.
Oh,
we had new shoes. I had new boots.
Yeah.
And I needed to make sure that they were, but he was fine. He walked up and down with a backpack. So because we're doing this, to kind of stimulate.
I know,
He was fine. My
My
wife was nearly tempted. I'll help him. She was encouraging. It was fun.
No, you have to be committed. I think that's a good analogy. Is going up a mountain, to be honest, and you can't see the top of it necessarily. You can kind of on Croagh, but. Do you know where you kind of go over the certain sort of like ridge or something, and you still can't see the top? It can be discouraging. So step by step, of course.
It is.
It's a famous analogy, but it's certainly the case there. And I think in terms of Croagh as well, I mean, sometimes we might forget Patrick himself, you know, and I'd be thinking about him sometimes, certainly in relation to the event at the TF.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because I can see Croagh from Castlebar. So it reminds me, and I'm thinking back to his day, and things we often romanticize Patrick, you know, but really he had a tough time, and he certainly persevered.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, I draw inspiration from that, even though it's so long ago. I still got a good imagination. I can imagine how tough it was.
Yeah.
And look at the fruits of that.
Exactly. And he was called back to Ireland from Foclut, which is a wood not far from here.
Yes, I heard that all right.
Near Killala, and so it's a great connection to him.
Yeah.
And then if you go, supposedly in France, he was on an island just on the south of France, and he was introduced to the tradition of the Desert Fathers.
Right. Oh, right. Yes.
They have a plaque on that monastery.
Yes.
So like where Saint Patrick, who he was.
Yes.
Where you know, and it was a great era for the church.
Yes, of course it was. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Not just Patrick. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, so you have, and you know what? It's strange. You have the bishops doing stuff in Ireland, which is. You know, light the fire, Bishop Emma Martin. We had the bishop bringing back the relic of Saint Bridget, the skull from Portugal. So like something has galvanized Ireland, and I just think, you know, it's a new era.
It is,
It's a new age, you know, for the Irish Church. You know,
could be reliving that very time, like you know, Patrick's time. And all the other missionaries that were there alongside him as well. It wasn't obviously all down to Patrick on his own, not by any stretch. But you can imagine how difficult it was as well. And it's interesting you say there about him meeting the Desert Fathers. I didn't know that now. Like that's interesting.
Because he must have had, they must have taught. He must have been taught this, because you read his writings. You know the Lorica or his confessions. He must have came to Ireland with that. He must have been already gone through the purgative, illuminative way, and had union with God, and then bore fruit through his ministry. And formed disciples.
I would imagine.
There's no other. You know.
No, I know.
You know, because there was a deeply monastic prayer. So it was all coming, and then we saved Europe. We brought that back.
Absolutely, I know.
You know?
Yes, I know.
And then we forgot. We lost it.
Oh,
we lost it, and now it's coming back.
Yes,
you know,
I know.
You have all of these missionaries coming into Ireland, different people, and the only way this church will be transformed, and absolutely, is the seventh mansion.
Yes,
You know, Saint Teresa of Avila's seventh mansion, and people see this as non-achievable, and Christ is there. You can do everything. With me, you can do anything. You know, unite yourself to me, and I'll bear the fruits that I need to.
Absolutely, yeah.
And once people see that, there's no stopping the Irish church.
No, I agree. Yeah.
You know, like knock the Lamb of God. Where did the Lamb of God appear in the Bible? You know,
I know. Yeah,
he sacrificed in Israel. Knock.
Of course. I know. Yeah. It's an interesting apparition, knock, in that sense, like because of the Lamb. Yeah, because as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if the Lamb there's been any other apparitions anywhere else quite like that one.
No, it's not.
It was a silent apparition, but nevertheless, it was a profound one. It's not really silence.
Yeah.
You know, no spoken words, but there was a lot spoken, really. And through the Lamb. It reflected
the mass of the era, which was.
It did.
You know, an encounter of silence in many ways.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
The silent canon.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think I always say that Ireland, its greatest export is the Catholic faith. I mean, I think in any way you go around the world, people that do associate Ireland with the faith.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the moment, things have changed. We know that, but from the past, it really has made a dent in the world. With the faith, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think through the prayers of everybody over the centuries that Ireland will be lost ultimately. No. You know, I don't know how exactly it's gonna what's gonna happen. How it's going to change, but I don't think it's lost.
No, I don't either. You know, I see a lot of people coming in. You know, God has been sending a lot of helpers. You know, different missionaries and Franciscans and all the different churches. You know, there's definitely something afloat.
Yes, that's a sign. I think. That God is working. In some way, as you said, in kind of ways that are mysterious, ways that we can't fully, you know, necessarily see. I do. You know, I think God works in his own time, and it's God. We have to remember it's God that will do the changing.
He will.
It's not ourselves. We assist. We can align ourselves with him, you know, but it's we have to remember that always. It's God who does it's his mission.
It is.
We line up with him. That's kind of thing, you know.
We could go on for a while, but CANA Talks is on next Friday at what time?
It's on at 8:00. 8:00 in the evening.
In the TF Royal.
The TF Royal Theatre in Castlebar, County Mayo. And so it's 8:00. It's about a 2-hour show, 2 to 2.5 hours. So doors open at 8:00 anyway. 7:00. Show starts at 8, and then we have the 3 speakers in the first half. We have the bit of entertainment, and then we have an interval, kind of a 15-20 minute interval. Second half, then we have the other 3 speakers and the other section of entertainment as well.
Great.
So that's the.
That's and there's parking beside the TF Royal.
There is, there's parking beside the TF Royal, and also actually in front of the hotel as well, and along the street there.
Or down by Tesco's.
Down by Tesco's,
so there's lots of parking around that area. I didn't have any problem. If you come fairly early, you should get a spot. In the car park next to the building. So, big theatre. It's 2,300 seats actually. In so we need to sell all those tickets, guys.
We certainly do. Because even in what I would say here as well is with the funds of this, it goes straight back into evangelistic work. It's not. It's certainly not. For me, it's for evangelization.
So you're not going into the Bahamas?
No, no. No, I won't do that.
But yeah, no, I think yourself and Laura have done an excellent project, and I want to give this plug and spread this message out across Ireland. I put a link to the Eventbrite website for the tickets in here, so you can. And the website is CANA Talks.
CANATalks.com. I can read out the information.
You can just show that. Just show this.
Yes.
We'll show this.
Okay. Yes.
And so this is the flyer that and I'll put a link to the website here. So CANA Talks, Friday 31st of May, from 8 onwards. Be there early to get parking, and I'll share all the details. And this is going to be hopefully something that you will grow over the next few years, and we'll see what the fruits that pop out from this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks very much anyway,
no problem.
Robert. No,
it's a pleasure.
I appreciate speaking to you. It's great.
It's great
to have the chat.
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
Thanks now.
You're welcome.